John Righeimer.
Here.
Stacy Hassel.
Here.
Tom Duffy. Steve Carrianen.
Here.
Randy Newman. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The meeting agenda is set, and we have at least one person here for public comment, Linda Zillmer.
Good morning, Linda Zillmer, Edgewater property owner and Village of Birchwood resident. I have a couple of items that I'd like to address in public comment today. On the agenda items, I had sent in an email. I believe that there is a public hearing required for library plans, and I don't recall whether Sawyer County held that or will be holding that, so if there can be clarification there. Also, when it comes to the bead endorsement for Narvado, could there be some discussion of whether the area that is being proposed to be covered is also something that was covered under previous discussions with bug tussle? And then I'd like to clear up a couple of items. Recently, I read in the Sawyer County Record comments from both Frank Zufall and then picked up in a column by Rich Jackson that resource development funds are supposed to be for economic development. That is not true. Resource development funds were initially timber revenues, and they were set aside for forestry purposes and for the very expensive maintenance of dams that the county is responsible for. So at some point in time, I don't know how it got mixed up, I found an article that Terrell Betcher had done back when $500,000 of resource development funds were used to settle a dispute with John Houseman on Round Lake. And at that time, Terrell reported accurately that resource development funds were for dam projects and for resources. And somewhere along the line, subsequent to that, it's been misreported that they're for economic development. And then this committee, as far as being an economic development extension, did not even exist prior to 2005. Economic development as a focus was added after the 2005 Economic Development Summit that was held. And subsequent to that, during Governor Doyle years, counties in the state started moving away from county economic development corporations more to regional. So for our areas, that includes Visions Northwest. So I went back and I looked at their agendas and minute meetings, and I think the last time Sawyer County had anyone attend their meetings was July 13th of 2022. At that time, Mr. Alvarado was representing Rusk County, and Mr. Righeimer, you were appointed to represent Sawyer County. And since that July 13th, 2022 meeting, there has been no attendance by Sawyer County. So I really do also question the purpose of having an economic development committee for Sawyer County, and then how much the county is actually represented in our regional economic development effort. Thank you.
Lynn, is there anybody online? Excellent. Consider approval for meeting minutes from last month.
Also move.
Motion by Tom Duffy,
Seconded.
second by Steve Carrianen. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, minutes pass. I do not believe anybody is here from the fair. We'll move on to item 10, which is the University of Wisconsin Extension Department report. Not next, please. I see it. I'm like, oh, we're on. I thought this is the month. So, all right, no problem. Thank you. Hayward Lakes Visitors and Convention Bureau, you're here.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Mindy Simons, Executive Director, Hayward Lakes. Just wanted to give you a little snapshot of the year prior since we are starting a new year. Just also keep in mind that I prepared this in the middle of December before the holiday break. But the numbers should still give you an idea of what we have done for marketing analytics for the year. Our general website traffic is up about 6.5% from 2023. The views are up 14.5%, and engaged sessions are up 8.7%. Our main traffic for that is from Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, that little outlier of Texas, which we still can't quite figure out, and Iowa. So once again, our webcam is the top performing page, followed by activities, outdoor reports, and our ATV UTV trail page. Currently, we have 6,872 Facebook followers and 3,268 Instagram followers. Just to give you a perspective on this, when I started at the VCB in February of 2021, we had about 3,907 Facebook followers and 1,947 Instagram followers. So we're definitely making some progress at getting more social media engagement. The numbers continue to rise year over year, and our actual engagement with people who are on social media is actually rising, especially due to several of our social media campaigns with Hidden Hayward and our new Guess the Lake feature. So our YouTube channel is getting a lot of play now that we are starting to run some YouTube ads. Our ad that we ran in December, and then we again put some money behind it towards the last week of December to try to get some extra play. I got about 19,825 views over the 28 days prior. That was around December 15th. So November 15th to December 15th. The real meat in this is that it was a 30-second ad, and our average duration of view was 29 seconds. So people were actually watching the entirety of our ad, which basically featured all of our winter activities, skiing, biking, snowmobiling, and the like. So vacation guide mailings were down slightly, about 4% from 2023. I think that part of this you can attribute to the fact that people are consuming less and less print advertising, and perhaps they're actually looking at it online versus ordering the guide. The greatest number of guides that were requested were in September, which is great because we need to capitalize on our shoulder seasons. So it was good that people were requesting the guide in September, maybe planning for either late fall vacations or winter vacations. June, July, and August were the busiest months for walk-in traffic, which is not surprising. It's also a reminder of how fruitful our summers are. And then of the event weekends during this summer, Lumberjack World Championships was actually our busiest weekend, followed closely behind by Muskie Festival. So that's just a little snapshot of the year. Does anyone have any questions? It has had a great impact. It is not something that we take lightly, for sure. We've certainly had a lot of calls asking, trail conditions, this and that. One thing I will say is that I do believe that we've had more ice fishermen and women trying to get out on the lakes and capitalize on the good ice conditions. But moving forward, it's really going to be vital that we get some snow soon, because our trails, snowmobile trails, certainly can't be groomed until we have a decent base. The only silver lining in this is that people are, with the good ice on the lakes, lack of snow in the woods, our ATV trails are still open, so they haven't started grooming yet. So we have been getting a good amount of ATV, UTV traffic, and they've been out visiting the businesses that are typically open for winter for snowmobilers. I think those businesses are also trying to capitalize on pushing out the information that the UTV trails are still open. So, anybody else? All right, great.
Northwest Regional Planning Commission. Number 13, Economic Development Corporation. report.
Good morning, Adam Lamori, Executive Director of the Sawyer County LCO Economic Development Corporation. Before I forget, Lynn, congratulations. You're awesome. Couple of things to go through. Last month, we voted to have 3 additional board members added to the EDC. Matt Albrecht from Woodland Development, Ashley Schrader from Hayward Power Sports, Ken Heffron from Tamarack Health, and Catherine Cadillac from Franson Bank. So those are going to be our 4 new additions. We're looking forward to that. Business Hub and Business Incubator update. We have a remodel estimate in and approved. We've got some funding possibilities, just still waiting for the okay from LCO Tribal Board to approve a remodel at the Travel Plaza on the corner of K and B. So that's in the works, and we meet this week to talk about that. Also with that, I have a couple things. I'm waiting to hear back on a small business development grant that was submitted. That would help us fund our incubator for longer than basically next December. Our funding through our Thrive grant would run out. So I'm looking to get, and I have applied for more technical assistance in the future. And then there's new grant opportunities that I'm working on as well. There's an entrepreneurship partnership grant through WEDC, and then I'm looking at a federal grant through it's called Rural Business Development Grant. So these are some opportunities that are coming up here in January and February. We're offering some educational classes still. I mentioned this last time, January 27th and 28th. We have a profit mastery class being held at the Hayward Lakes, actually the Hayward Chamber. It'll be from 9 to 3, and it's the first 8 people that register. And I have a couple spots left the last I looked. And then the kind of the big one here, feeding off of the lack of snow, which we definitely are going to feel an impact. But we have a non-traditional lending forum. And essentially what this is giving possible business owners another avenue to get funding that they might not be able to get through a regular standard bank. So we have about 11 presenters so far set up and ready to go. This is going to be held at Flat Creek on January 15th from 11:30 to 1. We're encouraging businesses, banks, and anyone from the general public is invited to show up from 11 to 1. There's going to be a lunch provided. If you go on our web or on Facebook, you can find a poster and register, or we'll take you, just show up. So, but all are welcome. So that's the 15th of January. That's coming up next week. And we're hoping it comes at the right time for some of these businesses. And then with that, our push is going to be going back to our local residents in Sawyer County, supporting these businesses, because we are in an area, and I don't look at the weather, but I've heard it's not good as far as the snowfall goes. So if we can get out and support these businesses that are staying open, that would be greatly appreciated. And then lastly, I do attend the Northwest Regional Planning Commission meetings. We have one this Wednesday. It's virtual. So as those meetings come up, the Sawyer County LCO EDC attends those as well. And that's all I have for you this month. So the Travel Plaza, the older gas station that's there that has the bank and the coffee shop, the middle section had fireworks, but it's empty. So the proposal is between Sawyer County, LCO, EDC, Wahidic, Wisconsin Indigenous Economic Development Corporation. Housing is in there too. They have some funds and they have some motivation to have a business hub in Sawyer County. So we're going to pool our resources together remodel the middle section. And so the idea is in the front to have 2 retail spaces for us to get entrepreneurs into a retail space. The back of it will be more of a conference area where we can help with technical assistance, business plan writing, stuff like that. Well, it depends on when it gets approved. We're waiting on the last bit of approval from the tribal board. So when, I don't know, I think it's going to be sooner rather than later. Yeah. I actually don't have any update on that, on the clinic. I drive by there quite often and, you know, they're still working on it, but it looks close to me, but I don't have an update. Yeah, thank you. Andy.
Stay there. Under item 13, Mr. Chair, I had added on there housing development opportunities, market study. Adam has been talking to potential housing developers. He brought me in with a meeting a couple weeks ago with one of the potential developers to answer questions about the county and helping them get familiar with what our needs might be. I just put this on here as one of the things we've talked about, and Adam is out gathering up some information from employers as to their what they see from their employee needs, like how many times have they lost candidates because they couldn't find housing, or does the lack of housing prohibit them from expanding? What are the price points out there for housing? But potentially, just to put this out on the table, some of those developers are going to be asking, and they have asked, is the city or is the county, what can we do to participate in housing development, whether it's buying down the cost of land or from the city standpoint, TIF districts. So we've tried to give as good answers as we can without knowing where the board might be on that. But that's a pretty common activity for municipalities or counties and communities that want to facilitate housing, is to take on some of that responsibility and assist in bringing down at least the initial cost of development.
An initial study that will kind of crystallize what we already somewhat suspect, but
Yep.
just at least put it versus educated guessing.
Yeah, we did the housing study last year. We updated what we had. But really the component that's missing, what I would say, is the market side. Like, what is the actual demand number? What is the price point for rentals and new homes? And what, matching that up. So if you're talking to a developer, they can get an idea of what the return on investment is. Like, what is the outlay? What can they expect for demand at those price points? So Adam's trying to gather up some of that. There is the potential to contract for that for a third party. So I do have a copy of a housing market study that was done by a private developer that we can't use, but it's a model for potentially having that same company do one for the county and the EDC. But I mean, I just putting that out that.
So that'd be something either we would do or hire a company to do it.
Yep. And I'd say partner with the EDC, but
Right.
the county assisting if we want to.
If we went that route,
If
the
we want
cost.
to go that route,
Yeah, and so in that, in those conversations, I reached out to, I believe, 5 institutions in Sawyer County that are the bigger employers, and I asked those questions, and it's actually, I'll share them eventually with you guys. It's very interesting to hear what they say, because like the UW extension study basically said we have a housing issue. But I think hearing testimonials from these larger employers was going to carry more weight with these contractors. And after reading the answers to the questions, okay, and I just sent them probably, I don't know, was it 8 questions? And some of those questions referred to income. Some of them referred to, is employee retention and recruiting hard based on our housing? How many of your workers live in Sawyer County versus commute from outside? Which obviously gives us an indication of whether housing is high or low, depending on whether they're commuting or not, is the idea behind that. But it was pretty interesting to hear. And then the other part that I wanted to know from them is, would they be interested in any involvement in a deal to have contractors come in? What could they bring to the table? Because I don't really look at this as, it's all of our problem. You know what I mean? And they see it and they want to help. And so how can they help? Because to be honest, it's always going to come down to land. It's always going to come down to the cost. And that's the barrier we're trying to get over and we're jump over. So identifying the need was number one with them. Working with the community is a big part of this company's push. I can tell from meeting with them for 4 times now. They want to be a local support. And actually, they're not from Sawyer County, but some of them reside in Sawyer County. So they have assets in Sawyer County. So they have a vested interest in our county. So these are just some of the discussions, and I didn't bring it up, but that's kind of where we're going.
So it's, I think it's good. It's a good start. So it's identifying the problem closer to the problem than maybe the UW Extension one, and is it, I guess, ultimately, that information will help us understand if this needs to be subsidized and to what extent, and whether or not the businesses and everybody jointly comes together to address that problem.
Yeah, because here's how they're interested. They want to know,
Those are the businesses.
the contractors are interested.
Oh, contract, okay.
Okay, the businesses are interested.
Yeah.
Okay, and the question is, what do we need the most? And how do they reduce their risk if they're going to do it? And
Risk being the contractor's risk.
risk is the
Yeah.
contractor's risk.
Understood.
And that's, I think it's a group effort to come up with a plan, especially after I see the answers to the questions. And not all businesses verbally said that they would be, in on doing something, but a couple of them did. And those players are going to be important. So, but everyone identified there was an absolute need. And I'll share you, I probably won't give you the names of the businesses, but I'll share with you the answers to the questions, and you guys will be able to see what they look like. It's pretty interesting.
Andy, is there anything with that sapling, the federal government, is that still, are they in business again?
They are.
They're doing what they said they would do?
Yep. I haven't checked with them in the last 6 months, but it seemed apparent that they had, they're fully functional, plan to use all that real estate that's out there. It seemed like
And we don't have to go on this rabbit hole, but there was no other suitable land in the county to do what they wanted to do and just do a swap? I can't remember.
It did not seem that they were interested in,
Even if there was, what?
right. Because of the infrastructure they have there with irrigation and having the plots all developed.
I don't know. I'm not an irrigation expert. How costly is that?
That I couldn't answer for you.
I don't want to make more work, but I'm just thinking if that seemed to be federal government not appreciating our needs. They own it, they want to do what they want. If there was a suitable land swap, and we're talking about subsidy down the road anyways, just seems like it was sitting right there for us. Again, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole unnecessarily, but I'll just leave it at that. So, thank you.
Thank you guys, appreciate it.
Winter Library.
Hello, Donna Nucky from the Winter Public Library. So included in the packet this month is our report has the statistics for the year on the second page. It doesn't have the December because we report or send the reports in before our end of the month reports come out. But in January, we're working on our annual report. So I believe when we come back in March, you should have a complete report of a full scope of what the year looked like with the statistics for the Winter Public Library. However, I'm here, we could talk about the activities that are going on. We see our library being used as a meeting center for other agencies and outlets for people to connect with our local population with when it comes to job searches, when it comes to finding assistance that they need. So I'm happy that the library is utilized by those agencies to connect with the people in our community. But we also offer, programming. We have our jigsaw puzzle competition coming up. We have local people that are bird watching experts. So they will be doing some presentations this spring. Of course, we have tons of programming going on. We actually, LCO schools got wind that we were doing Race to 100, which is a kindergarten program. So they sent over a group of students to participate in that program at the Winter Public Library. We have Strong Bodies provided by UW Extension, where we are able to offer community members to come in and virtually attend those sessions, those strength building sessions. We had our book giving tree, which is fully funded by donations from the community. And we had over 90, this is something we do November, December. We ask for requests from local families and youth so that everybody can get a book for Christmas. And we had over 90 youth requests, and all of the book requests were filled. All of the donations from the community go towards the book giving tree, stay with the book giving tree, so we had extra funds to start us off for next year. Our Friends of the Library, we've talked about fundraising. Our Friends of the Library does a lot of fundraising, and I don't know if you remember a few years ago, we had a problem with our basement and the massive flooding and infrastructure issue with the basement. So we received similar to a block grant from Northwest Regional Planning Commission to pay for upgrading or encasing the basement so that it was safe. We don't have mold issues. It's a dirt floor basement. It was about a $27,000 project. Every year there are certain fundraisers throughout the year that we do that go directly to pay that block grant off. We're not required. They said that unless we sell the building or we close as a library, we'd have to repay that. However, we want due diligence to not have that lien on our building. So I think this year, I have a board meeting tonight, but I'm proposing that with the fundraisers that we did that were earmarked for that project, we will be sending another $5,000 check to pay that off. So that will put us into owing probably about $19,000, just a little bit more. So we're very thankful for community support, and we're thankful that we don't have to take that out of our operational budget. And we're thankful for the opportunity that Northwest Regional Planning Commission gave to us to help us with that project. So Friends of the Library will be meeting to plan our fundraising for this next year. We did have carryover funds from last year to this year, and that was just because of the donations and the fundraising that we did. And so we're thankful for that. And I think that I don't have anything else to report at this time. Like I said, both libraries will be working on our annual reports in January, getting them approved in February, and I'm sure that we'll be bringing them to you in March so that you can see our progress throughout the year. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, well, so Strong Bodies is literally not a library program. It's held at the library because UW Extension Foodwise program offers Strong Bodies, which is a at-home virtual through the computer screen, online strength building exercise class. We, as a library, offer our session at the library so that community members who maybe don't have access to doing virtual classes, maybe they don't have the technology, or they just want the connection of meeting with other people. So we just offer a screen in our internet service and space for them to come in the library. So the library does not facilitate or teach the class. We just offer a space for them to participate. It's very popular. Yes, I don't have the statistics on it. That might be a Lori question, but it's very popular. I know I have at times been at the library when logging in. They have from several counties. This isn't just like a Sawyer County. It's food bodies. It's taught by the food educators, food-wise educators in several counties. Mhm. No problems at all. It was, I mean, I don't want to say having a disaster at the library was a blessing in hindsight, but we don't have to worry about mold issues. We don't have, a wet, soggy basement. Our infrastructure is very good. So it was good that we had to do that, so. No, no. We're putting only $5,000 towards it this year. It will be, after tonight, it'll be just a little bit over 19,000. So this is going to be a long-term plan, and it all is based on fundraising because I just don't want to shave that out of our operational budget. No, that was the only one.
Thank you.
Okay, we apply for other grants, I should clarify, for other parts of our library operation and programming, but just not for the basement, because we got it fully funded with that other grant. All right, thank you.
Vice Library.
Good morning. Happy New Year. Ann Larson, the director at the library. Again, I gave the numbers, and I do know that the only number we finalized in a way was our official door count, and that was an increase of almost 5,700 or about 11% this year over last year. And you can see too, our numbers are up overall with about 500 new patrons this year. So things are going in the right way. I also gave you information about our programming. We keep on having ongoing partnership with KITS, Northwest Connection Family Resources, and other organizations. You can see the Dear Santa event, where children learned how to write a letter to Santa and actually received a response back from Santa, was a good response. Saturday, we had our third Ultimate Puzzle Contest, and we had 11 teams with 41 people compete. And they all compete on one puzzle, a 500-piece puzzle. And it's an interesting thing because I've had one team at all three events, 500-piece puzzle. The first time they finished it under an hour, second time 33 minutes, and this time in 2 hours they didn't finish it. So just an interesting thing, running a science experiment with them. I do have now monthly meetings with Sarah Gunn, who's the head librarian at the Hayward Schools, for collaborating on different events for students. We also, with the school, the kindergarten classes usually visit us in May. This year they visit us in the fall because the children couldn't visit the pumpkin patch. We are also starting to have an activity walk in place of our story walk, simply because we're trying to test the water, how well the laminated materials stand up to the water with snow and ice. So I'm kind of disappointed the winter isn't a normal winter, because if you put a laminated story walk book, to laminate it and to buy it, it's about $150, so I don't want to run the risk of damaging one. But it's out there. You guys can do an activity walk. We're also starting a new program called Craft and Conversation for Adults from the survey that we took in the fall. We're also looking into some kind of a cooking class and things like that for adults. Let's see. The other thing we're doing a lot is with open houses and more school collaborations, like with parent-teacher conferences, to let the public know and parents know what we have available. Also hired a new assistant director, Taylor Robars. She was a part-time clerk at the library since May, so I'll be training her. Wanted to thank you for the additional $10,000 for some of our capital improvements. I do have a list I can talk about and a couple pictures if you'd like. We'll be going over that with our board on a week from tomorrow. So I don't know if you wanted me to go over some things that need to be done at the library, or you want me to hold off until April?
Is that with the 10,000, what you're going to do with it, or just in general?
In general, yes. Do you want me to go over some of our capital
Yeah,
improvements?
how long would it be, you think?
Capital
No,
improvements?
to go over it now, how long would it take?
I could take just 2
Oh,
minutes.
let's do it now then, yeah.
Okay. The major improvement that we need done is our window and door situation. We get extreme buildup of ice on the windows and doors. I have photos if anybody wants to see them. At the end of this month or beginning February, we're hiring an assessment to be done on the facility because they're trying to figure out if it's humidity, window, door type, installation, a combination. Everybody that comes in, when we get one person come in, they say it's this. So we're trying to figure out what is going on with that. The trail walk behind our library, the boards are getting rotted, so need to improve that. That usage, the trail usage, I see always somebody coming out there, even last week in the cold weather, people like walking the trail. We need replacement of carpets in the adult and children's areas. The building's almost 20 years old. Painting of walls throughout the library, cracks in the ceiling, cracks in the floor tiles. We have issue with, at least right now, one of the air conditioning units. And then this Tuesday, I am having a scanning company come in to talk about archiving some of our Wisconsin books and local area books. And then they'll be helping us try to find some grants and things like that. So that wouldn't really be out of operational, but trying to get the ball rolling. We've got some really unique books in the library. Want to maintain that and maybe grow it further in terms of whether we talk with the Sawyer County Historical Society or maybe something like with the high school with the yearbooks, the Dear Marple letters. Yeah, so any questions?
So that's above and beyond the 10,000, so is this, you're going to raise the funds, or where's this come?
Oh, for the archival?
Oh, for all those, that list of, you have an estimated cost, and where does the money come from?
There are funds left over from the building of the library because it was under budget. Some of that funds have been used. We have a little bit there, but just trying to figure out, after 20 years of a building well-used, just starting to show its age and things need to be improved. So trying to figure out where that would be. Still trying to determine, number one is the windows and that.
Yeah. Andy, other than the county, who contributes funds to the library? The towns themselves?
Each library is different, like the Winter Library gets some funding from the towns. The Hayward Library, I don't think it's any town or city funding. They get other funds from, fines and fees, and then from other counties if.
Correct, just the way we assess the, yeah.
So is it unusual that the town or city of Hayward would not contribute, like versus other counties in the major town that the library resides in?
I don't know how unusual or how usual it is, but it is true that in other places, municipalities do contribute to the
Because this
libraries.
seems to be like a consistent theme, doesn't it? Like with, we were on different sides of the Veteran Memorial, but it was said, a valid point, that it's not our job to rescue the city of Hayward and beautify them. And this is an example where they don't contribute. Supposedly they contribute in kind, the county.
Correct.
But I think they're getting an easy pass here, and that's what I have to say about it.
They do all of our financial work. We go on with them with our health insurance, things like that. They do our payroll. They do all our accounting for us. They do that. The city. It was back in, now we need Molly here for this, but my understanding is that back in around 95, 96, it was determined they didn't have the funds to do outright money to the library. So it was agreed upon back then, just with the county, and then they would do the in-kind. I have been starting to go to the town of Hayward meeting just to let them know what we're doing and things like that. Trying to hit one town a month and just discuss with them what's going on with the library in terms of our funding and things like that. So,
It's a good idea. I mean, especially the town of Hayward, city of Hayward.
Yep.
You guys are sitting right there. I mean, I guess if you don't ask, you're never going to get it. They're
right.
not going to be willingly to want to hand it over, I guess, but it just seems to stand out as an eyesore that they don't contribute anything to it. So I guess we'll monitor that as it goes.
Yeah, I'm going there next Monday, I believe, or is it next Monday? Sorry, I don't have my calendar. So I'll be talking at the city of Hayward. Last month, I talked at the town of Hayward. And then the following month, I'll either probably go to town of Lenroad or Bass Lake.
How much does Winter provide? Is it token or what percentage are they helping you with?
So we're a joint municipality or a joint library. So I have the town of Draper, town of Winter, village of Winter, town of Ojibwa, town of Meadowbrook, and town of Radisson and Coudray. So they don't do it by a percentage. Each municipality is different. There's no state statute on what they, need to provide, or even as a joint library, saying that they identify us as their library. Town of Winter for many years has given just $5,000. It's a lot of times it's just a flat rate. But I just visit them every year, share statistics, share what we do, ask if they would give any financial support. And
But just Winter does it, the other ones don't?
nope, they all do.
Oh, they all do, okay.
They all do, not $5,000, but I think total it might be between $6,000 and $7,000 a year between all the municipalities. So I couldn't run just on that, but it does help add to the budget.
How's their tax base versus the city of Hayward?
Those municipalities would be significantly smaller.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah, so I'm also investigating that in terms of not the consequences, but what happens if we do become a joint and things like that also. Yeah. Oh, and that's what I'm doing behind the scenes too, is trying to figuring out a lot of different little things, what has changed over the years and in the library world. And
Generally, are there library grants out there? Are they shrinking up?
a lot of library grants, what they do is they'll say, oh, we have the grant for a program, but they don't provide most of them don't provide any support for paying a staff member to do the project or do the thing. There's not too many grants, if you need help with the windows or the basement, things like that. Those are, I don't know of many. They're going far and less, even if you need, I know quite a few years ago, we got a grant for new chairs in the library, things like that. Those are far few between also. So things are getting slim and, I keep looking for grants, such as there's this Carnegie grant that everyone says, oh, we need to do. It has to do with ESL and helping high schoolers get into college. Right now, I don't feel that's my focus. I've got it. So everyone's like, oh, you can get up to, $50,000. Well, my chances of spending 10 hours on it and getting it are slim to none. So any other questions?
I just want to say I appreciate your work in trying to figure out what needs to be done to, maintain the library going forward and make it last another long time for
Yeah.
sure. And, understanding, the concerns about funding that institution, which so many people rely on.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm just amazed at how full the parking lot is on a regular basis there. So it's certainly being well used.
yeah, it is. Yeah,
That-
thank
that-
you.
That relates to the maintenance requirements. The more it's used, the more you need to
Right.
maintain it. So, again, kudos to you and your folks for, trying to get to the bottom of things.
Well, thank you. Yep, and I'll continue to and try to see where I can get more funding, so. Do we have the next thing?
Let me
Oh.
just clarify one thing. When you asked about the evaluation of those, individually, the ones that are members of the town of Winter would all be, I think, a couple might be about similar to Hayward. Collectively, they're much more than Hayward, but individually, they're as much or less than the.
I would just think the tax base is
Yeah.
significantly lower. I mean, I kind of asked the question. I thought I don't know what the numbers are, but
And
I
I
mean-
think maybe the more interesting thing for discussion at the county level, and I'll use this as a segue into the library plan, is that as far as the governance, so Winter Library, they do have all those towns as involved with their library or shareholders, effectively. They all get representation on the library board there, so they have 11-member board. Town of Winter gets 4, Ojibwa, Draper, Meadowbrook, Radisson all have a seat, Coudray has a seat. The Sherman Ruth West Library, the mayor appoints 8 seats and the county board gets 1 seat, even though we were generally providing the majority of the funding for it. So you can find all that information in the county library plan, which is the next item on the agenda. So, yeah. So Donna got a hold of me a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and said, hey, the county library plan is expiring. We need to put a new one in place. She provided the draft or the plan they've put together that's in the packet, along with the brochures requirement and then the agreement that we have with Northern Waters Library Service. So this is done every 5 years. I'll turn it over to them. They can explain it, but a couple of things I wanted to point out. The exchange I had with Donna, I asked, who did this plan? Where did it come from? Because I don't recall, I know counties have county library planning committees. I didn't recall that we had actually appointed one. And as far as I can tell, and this goes back as far back as I can research, maybe the last 3 plans, it looks like it was done. The library directors get together, kind of organize it. And I don't know if they've had county board members involved, maybe informally.
Right, so you have 2 representatives that are on the Northern Waters
Northern Waters.
Library Service Trustee Committee. So I think it's Ron Buckles and Diane DeLong are the 2 that are appointed. So I don't know about this round, but in previously, Diane DeLong and the county board representative would be at the meeting. Sherry is the director or was, I should say, she left in the middle of this plan, which is why Ann and I kind of took it over to keep moving it forward. They were not at the meeting when we discussed this, but I did share it with Ron, and explain to him about the county, and he's familiar with the requirement to have a county library plan, so he did review this.
Okay. So
I
just.
can't say about Diane, I don't know.
Right. And so there's been some transition with Molly departing and then Sherry at the system. And that's one of the primary reasons to have the county library plan is we need to have one in place so that we can be members of Northern Waters, and the county libraries that are part of the plan can participate in the division, which is the Northern Waters Library Service. So as far as actually having a planning committee, to me, that's something we probably should address, and maybe, it's a formality of appointing the people like the library directors from the libraries, as well as our county board representation to the system, and maybe even our county board members who are appointed to each individual library. That could be our library planning committee. And then the library planning committee is the one who updates, maintains the plan, holds any public hearings that are necessary for it. When they're done with it, they turn it over to the county for filing it. And that's where we'd be at this step of reviewing it and adopting the resolution to accept it, essentially. So I don't know, I just in exchanges with Donna, doesn't have to be done this month. We could push it out if you want a chance to review it, or go back and we kind of clean up the process a little bit to do that. I don't think the system, and I think it would be helpful too to have, whoever the new Sherry is with the system be a part of that process with us to explain it.
I mean, there's no reason to rush it, I would think, right? I mean,
I don't think they're going to kick us out of Northern Waters if we don't have it
They
done.
won't kick us out. What will happen is the Department of Public Instruction will say that the libraries aren't in
Out of
compliance.
compliance.
We're out of compliance. But I feel, and this is just a feeling, because I went through this with our, why we became a joint library with other municipalities, with conversation with DPI and not being compliant, they will know that we're in the works or in the process of doing this. And I think that will be sufficient. For sure, we don't want to extend it like months, but, and this will be a 5-year plan, so it's not something we have to do every year. And there's nothing in this plan really that has changed,
Right.
other than the wording for LCO community.
University.
University, it's no
Any
longer the
university.
community, it's a library, but instead of saying college library, it's university library. So otherwise, everything else stays the same except for our brochure, which still needs a little bit of correction, so that we give out to the public. But otherwise, the actual wording in the plan is from year to year. This is probably, I've been a library director, I'm in my 14th year. It's been the same. We just go through and update language, maybe that changes over time, or whatever services we offer.
And
Any
just
action?
another comment on the public hearing, just based on reading the statute, the planning committee shall hold public hearings. There is another section that says if there's any minimum standards that the county requires for the libraries, and this plan does not include those, then you're supposed to have a public hearing for that and make sure the libraries are participating. This plan does not include any minimum standards for the libraries to operate under.
Good to know. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Will you be in contact, Andy, to let us know what? Okay.
Does the committee want me to put together a resolution for establishing a county
Is that
library
the
planning
best way to
committee?
move
I think
forward?
we should
Then
have
yes,
something on the
yeah.
books to
Yes,
identify who's part of the planning committee. That way there's no
makes sense.
question who's on it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Motorized trail and non-motorized. Kathy couldn't be here, so Lynn's going to read her note.
Email. We are anxiously awaiting for snow, of course. The lakes are freezing well and many are marked for snowmobile use already. I attended the winter AWSC directors meeting over this past weekend. The subject of finances came up. The operating costs for our organization have increased tremendously over the past few years. Therefore, we are looking at membership increases and ways to reduce expenses. Snowmobile funding is experiencing the same scenario. We no longer carry a cushion from year to year and are encouraging clubs to be frugal with their grant requests and smart with their grooming. The legislative committee that I am on in AWSC is looking at increasing snowmobile registration and trail fee passes, as it's been over 10 years since those have been increased. Representative Chance Green from the 74th Assembly District attended our Saturday night AWSC banquet. Our executive board and directors really enjoyed his visit and found that he is well informed about motorized sports. Don Taylor, the chair of the Burnett County Board of Supervisors, opened our Sunday directors meeting. How interesting and supportive of the county to do that. We have been encouraging ATV riders to come to our county to ride. This past weekend, the Richardsons put on their second annual New Year's night ride and had 25 machines with about 55 people participating. It is difficult to encourage ATV riders to make plans to come here well in advance of the days they want to ride, because once snowmobile grooming starts, UTVs are not allowed on the dual-use trails. As we know, it can snow anytime. We've been telling ATVers to check the weather forecast, and if snow isn't in the forecast, to come and ride. That's it.
Thank you. Tom, non-motorized.
Okay, well, the good news for winter is there's lots of snow at Telemark. They've been making snow with 7 snow guns here now and all these nights. And at the present time, they are fully full of Berkey skiers. It's closed. And there's a few entries yet for the Cordy, but the Berkey itself is full. The real problem is that people have to train for this, and there's just no snow around. So every weekend now, between now and through February, there's either a race or a clinic at Telemark. So the snow there is ideal. Every time there's a flake of snow, they roll that Berkey trail, and so there's about a 2-inch hard crust base of snow all along that trail. So if we get snow, It won't take long to put the trail in shape to have the race. There's no talk of cancellation of the race. There's already enough snow now if they had to have the race tomorrow. So, but hopefully there's some snow going to come. Lots of buses are visiting each weekend from schools. Again, we joined the chorus with everyone else by saying, let's bring on the snow. It's gotta come. But otherwise, things are positive as far as Telemark's concerned and the Berkey. Ben also mentioned that again, we'll have the Berkey Expo at the schools for the Berkey Week. And last year that brought in like 15,000 spectators and skiers. So that's online. So that's kind of the news from Telemark.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom. Number 16, county connectivity, update discussion with Bug Tussle. I'm going to turn it over to Andy, but everybody here was at that meeting. We had a joint meeting with safety, economic, our board, and the public safety board. So if there's anything to add to that, Andy?
I have nothing to add, just that we have I've discussed with GenCom and Bug Tussle since the meeting last week and got them going on getting a proposal ready for next month's public safety committee meeting. So it's ready to go. Nope, that was part of the same conversation. And just reiterate too, as more so on the GenCom side, they do have it's available online. The FCC has a database of all the tower locations in the county. GenCom has a little bit better idea of each of those towers. You can tell through the FCC who the ownership is. GenCom has a better idea as far as who's on those towers. And so that's available, and that's what they're using to identify tower locations, potential with Bug Tussle, but also anything that's existing that we might be able to use instead of that. It's slow, but we are communicating. We keep asking. It has not been negative. It's been slow for them to determine where on the tower we can go, any changes they might need to make to the tower with their equipment, and then getting to an agreement or talking about what they're going to expect in terms for lease terms. We just have not gotten to that point yet.
Now we'll be able to use it. Is there a problem that we may not be able to use it?
No, and they have not indicated any problem, but there's always doubt until you get to somebody saying yes, and here's the terms, and here's the length of a agreement we can have. We'll impress upon them that they're part of our public safety user group, and that it would improve public safety communications greatly if we could be on that tower.
Okay. Broadband update.
So last month we did a BEAD endorsement for Mosaic, and as promised, Nervado has put in a request for a BEAD endorsement. Leo is here from Nervado and is going to give you a presentation, and then the resolutions in the packet to provide that endorsement. When we're done, or when Leo's done, I can maybe give some additional comments just on BEAD in general on where we're at.
Hi, I'm Leo Carlson. I'm the Chief Sales and Marketing Officer at Nervado. So thank you guys for the opportunity to be here today and to talk about BEAD. A lot of this presentation, a lot of the information in this presentation, I know it's available in your packet. You guys are probably very well aware of it, so I don't probably need to go too deep into what BEAD is and how this is going to work, or what everybody's responsibilities are. But I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware who Nervado was. We are headquartered out of Cable, Wisconsin. We serve currently now 6 counties after our most recent acquisition over in Vilas. So Bayfield, Ashland, Vilas, Price, Sawyer, and Douglas. So we serve portions of each of those counties. And almost all of Bayfield and Price. So, but there's a couple different things that we're working on there. This will be our 75th year in business as of 2025. And we currently have over 13,000 internet subscribers with 15,000 access lines. Access lines are phone lines, which include business lines and others. So we have 15,000 customers with phone lines. We employ over 75 full-time employees now. That fluctuates between 75 and 80, depending on time of year and different things like that we have going on. You guys are all aware what BEAD is, Broadband Equity Access and Deployment. It's an NTIA grant that the PSC has been empowered to deliver, and Norvado is one of the groups hoping to be a recipient of that grant to be able to serve Sawyer County and other counties as well. So you guys are, again, well aware of what the role of the local government is within this process. The main one I want to focus on is number 3. We're just asking for an endorsement from the county. We are not asking for any cash or in-kind process. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this is I wanted to let you know we are local. Our employees, many of our employees live and work and play when we're not up in Cable, we're down here in Sawyer County. So, and the couple other reasons, we do what we say we're going to do. We've been recipient of many grants in the past. We've been recipients of endorsements and financial dollars from Sawyer County, from the town of Lenroot, from other areas that we've done projects in. And we've followed through on everything we said we're going to do. Current projects are Winter Phase 1 and 2, Town of Lenroot Phase 1 and 2 that we've finished. These are projects that are either in work or completed. 00 to the Berkey Biner there is finished. And then we have many businesses in downtown Hayward that have our fiber as well. Currently, we have 235 route miles of fiber within Sawyer County and over 3,800 broadband service locations that we pass. This BEAD process, for the BEAD project, we are looking at 3 different project areas within Sawyer County. Looking at the towns of Hayward, Lenroot, Bass Lake, Hunter, Spider Lake, and Round Lake. We're proposing adding 300 plus new route miles of fiber, as well as passing another 3,126 broadband serviceable locations within Sawyer County. The next slide is the map that shows the locations. These are just locations that are going to be encompassed within these 3 project areas. So that's what I have for you guys. I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can, and if there are any, and do what we can.
Any questions?
All good.
I make a motion that we approve the endorsement for Norvado.
Resolution.
The resolution. What you said.
Need a second?
Yes.
Okay, right here. I second.
Second by Steve Carrianen. Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resolution's approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just a quick then kind of update on, I'm going to share my screen. So this is the county's, so the way, broadband profile through the PSC. And right now they're estimating in the last updated, there were 17,000 broadband service locations in the county, 17,050. Eligible for funding are 5,254. There's 8,200 served already and 3,566 that are in process. So by the map, the black triangles are all the ones that were in progress and are not eligible. That's past funding through ARPA, through the county, through the PSC. The purple are already in service. So you can see a lot of the black triangles and purple are in the southwest portion of the county, coming up to Hayward, all the purple area, and then over in the town of Draper and kind of the northeast corner of the town of Winter and out around this block out here, kind of northeast. So all those orange or yellowish dots are the ones that are eligible based on the 2 BEAD endorsements we've done. A lot of this area in the town of Bass Lake, south of the city of Hayward, and then up into Lenroot essentially the areas that Mosaic has talked about. And then Novato is also the town of Leonard, northern Spider Lake, the Round Lake area, and a little bit in the town of Hunter. So kind of everything north of the flowage looks like it's going to be covered. So we're still going to have some gaps on the south side of the flowage, and then over in the town of Ojibwa and the town of Winter, kind of the west end and south. I have not talked to any other communications internet providers that have indicated that they're going to be coming in for endorsement or pursuing BEAD funding for those areas. So I don't know. We've talked to a couple, but like Bevcom, which covered all of this area in the Meadowbrook, Murray, Uyghur area, they are not pursuing BEAD funding. They're not one of the companies that filed a letter of intent. Charter or CenturyLink, at this point, it didn't sound like any of those were going to be pursuing funding. So that's kind of where our gap is. Based on what you just heard from Leo Nervado's estimating, they'll be passing about 3,100 locations. And then Mosaic, I believe their number was between 200 and 300. That might go up a little bit. So we're going to have 2,750 locations left in the county unserved or projected to be unserved at this point, which is a significant amount of progress from the 17,000 total. But those are the ones that we will still have to be looking for solutions. And there will be additional rounds of BEAD. It's anticipated. There will also be, once the applications go in to BEAD, they've indicated there will be some jockeying maybe based on where providers are going and asking them to grab other BSLs adjacent to their projects, as well as preventing any overlap, I believe, as well. So that's where we're at as of today.
Do you see the possibility of them allowing like Starlink at some point, because that's the only viable solution?
For BEAD funding, I think they've said that wireless and satellite will be eligible. And if Leo wants to weigh in on that, he can. He probably knows more than I do, but it sounds like that'll be the last option at the end of the BEAD
Okay.
process. Upfront is going to be more the wired to the premise
Okay,
projects.
thanks.
You want to not, is that?
So, yes, Starlink will most likely be an option. So BEAD is unique, especially right now with this change in administration in DC. There's a lot of unsure. The FCC is changing now as well, with Brendan Carr getting in that position. He is a satellite and wireless proponent. So the anticipation, at least from our industry side of things, is we're looking at it as quite likely we're going to see some changes, maybe not wholesale changes to the BEAD program, but additions, changes, pokes here and there that are going to allow more. Quite likely they're going to be doing something with Starlink. The state of Maine has endorsed Starlink, so they're doing a big Starlink project with the ones they can't reach. And there is a lot. I mean, when we as an industry or we as an organization start looking at these, we're looking at the ones that are as close to our existing fiber as they can be, or that we can reach, or that have the most density, or that are going to be, of course, the most profitable. That's the things that we look at all the time. But to Andy's point, they are going to be looking at getting us, round 2, round 3 is going to be pushing us towards who's going to cover these other areas. 2 and 3 are where they're going to introduce whether Starlink or wireless are going to be eligible to get those locations, whether they're the best way to get to those locations. So yeah, we anticipate that's going to happen.
For Starlink, how would that work? So like the BEAD money would go directly to the consumer because they're just putting a dish on their roof, or how does that work?
Yeah, the state of Maine is doing something unique in that they are paying for the Starlink service to that location. And then I believe they're just paying down the monthly, because Starlink service is over $100 a month plus the initial startup. So the state of Maine is paying it down to the cost where BEAD would cover everything else. So there's a certain amount on the consumer to cost, and then they're going to be covering that. So it's an interesting model. It's unique. The difficulty satellite will provide the minimums, so they'll be 100 by 20. They're not as future-proofed as a fiber connection, which is the arguments against, but it works and it gets the job done. The struggle is going to be satellite struggles with density. So the more people that are on the satellite system, slower it starts to drag it down a little bit, which means you got to put more satellites up, which those of us that live in the north and like to see the northern lights, we might see a different, we might have a different opinion on seeing 60,000 satellites up in the sky, but it's a very unique and interesting proposition, and I do think that we're going to see it. The other thing with BEAD is that the PSC has been tasked with getting broadband, 100 by 20 broadband to everybody in Wisconsin. That's their goal. So those few thousand that are left in Sawyer County, they're going to be finding a way or trying to find some way or another to get them service. So that's just the way they're approaching it.
Thank you.
Well, the new administration, because they're appointing new people to the FCC isn't administering this grant. NTIA is, but there's also going to be some interaction. So there's a lot of give and take and push between those organizations in Washington. There's typically the Republican administration steers a little more towards a slightly conservative approach as far as costs go. We can probably do it cheaper with satellite, but it's not going to be for as long. So there's just different give and takes. I do think they're going to make some changes. I doubt they can pull it all back because BEAD is it was endorsed by Congress and set up that way. But I do think they can make minor changes to it, and we may see some differences in how it's administered. So they're not going to claw back $1 million or $1 billion plus from Wisconsin. At least they're not going to do it all, but I doubt they will. I think we're going to see it move forward. I think we're going to see it. And again, this is pure speculation on my part. We just don't know what's going to happen yet. We're just looking forward. As an industry, we're hoping for the best, expecting the worst, trying to do the best we can.
Excuse me. I do recall a while back, there was concern about the availability of fiber, with all of the money flowing in to promote use of fiber. Is that a problem going forward, or has that been resolved, or how does that stand?
Until BEAD is more finalized, there's been multiple new fiber plants built in the United States to provide for this because there is going to be a massive influx, massive request for more and more fiber. We're talking thousands and thousands of route miles of fiber as opposed to the 300 that Norvado's doing in Sawyer County. But we've already been purchasing fiber, so we have a stockpile of fiber to begin with. So we have at least the beginnings of our projects are going to be able to get started and get moving. BEAD is, again, unique. We have 4 years to finish these projects. So once we start all these projects we bid on, we have 4 years to try and get them done. Now, of course, we can get waivers and try to push it out a little bit longer because we have short bearing seasons here in northern Wisconsin, but 4 years is what we're supposed to get it done in. So it'll be tight. I do think they're anticipating less of a fiber shortage, more of a manpower shortage is what we're more concerned about at this point. Definitely a big deal. Something for us to be concerned about is the fiber, but running out of manpower and not being able to complete in 4 years is a big deal too. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Historical Society, I don't believe is here. Board appointed committee updates. Future agenda items. Any correspondence from conferences or meetings? All right. Meeting adjourned.